to travel broadly and provide unserved communities with resources that empower them to change their communities. Next, we have Alma Huerta. She is a program coordinator at Dignity Health Merchant Hospital Medical Center, Center for Healthier Communities, and she has her bachelor's in kinesiology and master's in public health. And before I let the presenters take over, I do want to note that we have a portion of our time dedicated to a Q&A at the end of the presentation, but you're more than welcome to ask questions in between the presentation, as well as any commentary that you might have. And also we do have a Spanish translator, so if anybody does need it, please let us know in the chat. And without further ado, go ahead and take it away, ladies.
Good morning, everyone. We are very excited to be here with you. And as Jenny said, we are here to discuss staying healthy during COVID-19. Next slide. So on our agenda today, we're going to discuss what the coronavirus is, physical health, mental health, and spiritual health during COVID-19. And we will reserve time for questions. And you'll also see our helpful resources towards the end. Next slide. What is coronavirus? So it's a respiratory disease caused by SARS-CoV-2. It's spread through droplets produced when an infected person coughs, sneezes, or talks. So that is the reason why so many of us are wearing lovely masks when we're out in public. And the symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after exposure. Some of the most typical symptoms are fever, chills, and cough. However, most of us have learned that there are people who walk around without symptoms. Next slide. So we want to kind of go into how our physical activity was affected during COVID-19. So after COVID-19 coronavirus was declared, 10 days after that, there was a 5.5 average decrease in steps worldwide. And then 30 days after that, there was actually a 27.3 decrease in steps worldwide. So that's a lot. 18% of US adults reported undesired weight loss, while 42% of US adults reported undesired weight gain. Next slide. And just to kind of put you, because we did the world, we did the US, so let's do a smaller group. So the Missouri University Healthcare, they actually did a study. And so they asked students how their physical activity was affected after COVID-19 declaration. 68% of people said their snacking went up. 74% started cooking more at home, which is great. 61% eating out went down, but 54% of this population, their exercise went down, and 54% weight gain went up. Next slide. So staying physically healthy during COVID-19. This is what we're going to talk about. We're going to give you just a few tips that we believe are healthy to help you during this transitional period. I know a lot of us are still trying to decide what we should do and what we can do for our physical health. Next slide, please. What is physical health? Well, first, it refers to the state of your body and how well it operates. Being physically healthy means to have quality of life that allows you to get the most out of your daily activities without fatigue or physical stress. So that could be anything from lifting groceries to, lifting your goddaughter, that would be me, going for a walk, making your bed, things like that. Next slide. How does physical activity benefit you during this time? Well, physical activity actually is proven to boost your immune system. It decreases your risk of infection. It reduces symptoms related to anxiety and depression. And it also elevates your self-esteem. Personally, I completely agree with this, just because I noticed that during the pandemic, when it first started, my sleep was off. My concentration and focus were off. I just had all of this extra time. So once I talked myself into, okay, like now you got to start working out at home, you have to make it work. It actually did help elevate my ability to go to sleep and to actually get rest. Next slide, please. Ways to stay physically healthy. we already kind of mentioned it, exercise. So we can do these things. We can exercise at home. And now that California is in the yellow tier, yay us, yay all of those vaccinations and people socially distancing. We can work out at home. That's something I did. I'm a big fan of YouTube. I have a huge YouTube workout list. There are other apps you can use. You can also start heading back to the gym. I know one of our coworkers, she said she's back in the gym and she just still watches her distance, and she's seen a lot of people do actually implement wiping down the stationery. So that's also an option. If you're an outdoors person, you can go for a run, you can go for a walk, you can go for a bike ride, a hike. We're fortunate enough to live in California where there are so many great hiking trails. So that's a really great option if you are an outdoorsy type person. Next slide, please. Ways to stay physically healthy, eating wisely. So personally, again, I was one of those people who had the weight gain. I didn't have an undesired weight loss issue. It was an undesired weight gain. And that's because I found myself just snacking to fulfill time, like to fill my time. So ways that I worked with just incorporating having better physical health was eating wisely. So one was eating more fruits and vegetables. And some of you may be thinking, okay, well, how do I do that? Does that mean I have to just consume all fruits and veggies? No, but if a normal plate for you is something like pasta, bread, and like a small salad, maybe instead of the bread, you can incorporate broccoli, or maybe you have a sweet tooth. So then you can do a side of fruit. Also choosing to cook more at home, which we saw that went up for a lot of people, cutting down on caffeine, alcohol, and sugar. Drinks are usually a lot of unwanted calories. So that's just an easy way that you can cut back and make a wise decision when it comes to eating. And lastly, eating one meal a day with people you live with or people you enjoy. Like I said, if you are vaccinated, a lot of us can now be around our friends who are vaccinated as well. So if you want to share a meal with a friend that's close to you, invite them over into your home and you guys can do that. Next slide. Ways to stay physically healthy, sleep, sleep, sleep. I can't stress it enough. And out of all of these examples here, I think one of the most important ones would be create and keep a going to bed routine. So if you are a person who's just hardwired, like I am, it may be hard for you to fall asleep, even if you are tired. So I realized that having a bed routine, a going to bed routine is extremely helpful. So it could be something like, an hour before you set a goal as a time that you want to be in bed. And an hour before that, you start dimming the lights, you start turning off the technology. Maybe you do affirmations, maybe you journal, maybe you do like a skincare routine. Just you want some sort of routine that is letting your body, letting your brain know it's time to get some rest. Next slide, please. So now we are going to discuss staying mentally healthy during COVID-19. Next slide. How has the pandemic affected mental health? Well, 4 in 10 adults reported symptoms of anxiety and depression during the pandemic versus 1 in 10, and that was pre-pandemic. Also, 56% of young adults reported symptoms of anxiety and depression. So right there, you kind of have just a snapshot of how the pandemic affected mental health. Next slide. What is mental health? Well, mental health is a state of well-being in which a person realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stress of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to their community. Next slide, please. So why is taking care of your mental health so important? Well, that's because it affects how we think, feel, and act. Poor mental health can increase risk of diseases such as stroke, diabetes, and heart disease. And unfortunately, I don't know if has anyone, well, I mean, let's take a moment. I want to see, has anyone heard of your cortisone levels increasing due to stress? You can raise your hand virtually and I'll check the chat. So I don't really see, okay, I see one person has said yes, someone has said no. So cortisone is actually, it's a hormone that's released. It's a hormone that's released in our bodies, and it's kind of like an attack hormone, like your body says like, something's wrong, we have to figure this out. So when you're more stressed, your body produces more cortisone, which is dangerous. And that is one of the things that increases stroke and heart disease. So mental health is extremely important. Our physical health, physiological health depends on it. Next slide, please. So now we want to discuss ways to stay mentally healthy during COVID-19. So one would be to take care of your mind. And a great way to do this is your physical health. And one thing that I mentioned is that it helps me sleep better. So again, your sleep has a lot to do. Now the master's in public health student is coming out of me. I'm thinking of all of the research I've done on sleep. It actually does affect a lot of chemical hormones in your body. And if you're not properly sleeping, that can actually lead to your heart and insulin in your body not really getting the proper rest that it does to kind of rejuvenate for the next day. So your physical health is extremely healthy, extremely helpful in staying mentally healthy. Understand how stress affects you. Personally, my mental stress affects me physically. It could be that I start having heart palpitations. I may get anxious. So you want to be aware of that. That way you can combat things that bring on those stressors. Recharge yourself. We all need a moment where we can just recharge, get back to who we are, clear our mind, because I mean, we live in a society also to where we just kind of constantly have things coming in at our receptors. Next slide. Ways to stay healthy, ways to stay mentally healthy. So tip number two is connect with others and maintain relationships. Again, if you are fully vaccinated, meaning you received your second dose, and is it 2 weeks after your second dose, Alma? Yes. You can gather with other people who are fully vaccinated. You can also gather with people who aren't fully vaccinated, but you would have to tune in for our workshop, one of our other workshops, to learn more about that. But making connections with people, do something for others. You could, if you know your mom might be, maybe people are doing well, but just to check in with them and just to create that connection and just let them know that you're thinking of them, it will actually make you feel better. That's something that I practiced in my life, and it makes me feel a bit more fulfilled. Next slide, please. So the next one would be managing your time efficiently. This is kind of loaded, but let's just kind of make this a bit more relatable. So you would want to set a goal. It could be a small goal. It could be something like maybe you're just really stressed and your room hasn't been cleaned. So it could be a small goal as far as, okay, on Tuesday, I'm going to pick up everything off of the floor. How much time do you think it might prioritize? So you want to pick, the thing that's bugging you the most, the biggest eyesore, which for me, eyesores would be anything that's on the floor. So that would be my goal, is to first pick up everything off of the floor. Set a time limit. It shouldn't take you, I don't know people's level of cleanliness, so I'm not going to go there, but you want to set a time limit for any sort of goal. So for me, I would give myself 5 minutes, just something really quick that would just immediately elevate how I felt. And then be sure to take breaks between tasks. So maybe, you're like, I'm going to pick everything up, and maybe you'll fold them, and then maybe that was enough for you, and now you need to go for a small walk. And always plan ahead if you can. Next slide. So next would be stress management. So there are several, stress management can be very broad. There is short term, there's like a medium term, and then there's something that's more long term, but I thought it would be most important to focus on short term. So it could be anything such as guided imagery, meditation, getting a hug from a loved one. One of my coworkers can sense when I'm stressed, and she just comes over and gives me a hug. We have that permission, we have that sort of relationship. And I promise you, that's something that elevates my mood and reminds me that I'm not alone, reminds me that I'm connected with people, and it just elevates my mental health a little bit in that moment. Next slide. So the next would be to know when to ask for help when you need it. And I would want to relate this to work. That's what I can relate that to right now. Like for instance, right now we actually have a huge internal transition going on. And one thing that I really appreciate about Alma is that she's really great at supporting people, but I also feel very strongly about her knowing when to ask for help. And I think that timeliness, it helps in a sense that it doesn't make anyone else feel overwhelmed. And it reminds us, regardless of your position, we all need help from time to time. So it also makes us more likely to be able to assist her. Next slide. Using apps is a really great way to stay mentally healthy. And one that we're really proud to announce is Headspace, because Headspace has partnered with the Los Angeles Department of Mental Health. So if you reside in the LA County, this app is actually free to you for 2021, excuse me. I'm not sure if it goes into 2022, but definitely this year it is absolutely free for you. And they have guided meditation exercises. They have methods in which help you sleep better with stories, music, and guided meditation. And there are also tons of workout videos that you can use from Headspace as well. So we actually have the website right there, but we have other helpful resources that we will get to in a bit. Next slide. Staying spiritually healthy during COVID-19. So this is what we're going to talk about next. So what is spiritual health? Spiritual health is the aspect of our well-being which organizes the values, relationships, and the meaning and purpose of our lives. Next slide. Why is taking care of our spiritual health important to us? Spiritual wellness acknowledges our search for deeper meaning in life. We feel more connected to those around us, and our actions become more consistent with our beliefs and values. So I just wanted to take a moment and ask anyone, do they feel that after hearing what the definition for spiritual health is, do you feel that spiritual health is important to you? Ooh, thanks for sharing that too about Headspace, Liz. So I have two yes. I have a yes 100%. Yes, I completely agree with you all. And one thing that resonated with me was just having purpose. Spiritual health to me is being connected to what you believe your purpose is. Next slide. So now we want to talk about ways to stay spiritually healthy during COVID-19. And one would be to strive to live a fulfilled and spiritual life. So I take that as being connected with a purpose, concentrate on tasks and items that bring fulfillment and increase peace and joy, rather than merely just activities to fill time. Like an example I could give you right now is being a part of this event. This is very fulfilling to me. I want people to have information and tools to feel empowered to make more informed decisions for themselves. This isn't something I'm doing to just fill time. Thank you. Next slide, please. So a second tip would be to look for the good that you can do for others. One thing I like to do, I believe in small acts of kindness daily, whether it's a smile, whether it's saying good morning to someone. You never know how you'll add to someone's day. One thing here, my coworkers and I like to practice is we might leave flowers on one another's desk. We might leave little notes just saying, keep working hard, you got this. just little things to encourage one another. And I also wanted to open this up to everyone and just ask if anyone would like to share a small act of kindness that they partake in. Whether it's your family, community, if you volunteered at a food bank, anything. I love Starbucks, so I try to pay it forward. Oh, at least once a month to make someone's morning. That is, I love that. That is such a great idea. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Next slide, please. Oh, I have two more. I want to read this next one. I let people in my line. Let me tell you, that is a big deal because people, whether you're in a grocery store, whether you're driving, that's a really big deal. People are very testy about letting people in front of them. So oh, and Clavel wrote, I like to be as positive as possible with everyone I interact with. I love that. I hear you with the sometimes, Janelle. At least you do it. At least you do it. So our next tip is to watch for ways to grow and learn. So I think a really great example of this were faith services. Faith services recognized that they couldn't meet in person. So they actually started meeting online, or they had drive-in services. So I think it's so great for us to remember that we don't have to be boxed in by something, that we can actually climb out of that box, and we're, like figuratively speaking, thinking outside of the box. So again, I wanted to see if anyone would share a way that they have that they've grown and learned during the pandemic. What is one way that you thought outside of the box? And I'll give you guys a moment to add that into the chat. You know what? I will come back and read what people decide to share. Being more mindful. I love that. It's so important. I began reading more self-help books to help me reflect on my own actions. Yes, now is the time for self-growth and healing. Absolutely. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you to anyone who is still typing in. I will read that in a bit. Next slide, please. So our last one, consider ways that you can use your alone time. And I think some of you actually kind of mentioned these. One is meditation, writing in a journal, setting goals, reflecting on them, and paying attention to your emotions. One thing that was recommended to me was just sitting with your emotions. I know we live in a time where people are manifesting and, they're claiming not thinking any terrible thoughts. But I think as a human being, that might be a little difficult for some of us not to think any terrible thoughts, not to have any bad emotions. So I think it's really important to sit in your emotions and acknowledge them, but not live there. We don't have to live in a place of sorrow. We don't have to live in a place of anger. We acknowledge those emotions, and we can still move forward in peace and in positivity. And you can do so by meditating. You can do so by writing about those feelings. You can do so by setting goals. What can I do that will make me feel more fulfilled in my day? What do I like to do? This is a great time to get to know yourself more. So thank you. Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing about that. So those are our tips. Next slide. And now we just wanted to make sure we provided resources. We talked about physical health. So as I mentioned, a lot of gyms are open. And if you're comfortable going to a gym, I would say just to practice, washing your hands, wearing your mask, and watching your distance. Definitely watch your distance, please. There are also websites. I'm a huge fan of YouTube. I don't really do podcasts. I'm just such, I can't even believe that how much I love YouTube, but that's where I get a lot of my stuff from. There's also CrossFit, Planet Fitness, workout apps. There's Pair Personal Fitness. That's a personal fitness coach. There are so many, but I would just say just even hitting Google and just seeing like free apps to, help with this or that. Next slide. We also have free resources for mental health. There are several hotlines. There's a suicide prevention line, veterans crisis hotline. There are also apps like 7up, Super Better, PTSD Coach. Next slide. Free resources for spiritual health. We've provided websites as well as apps. Next slide. I believe we're just on our resources now. Those are our references. Just to let you know, we did not make these things up. We use credible references. And that's it. Do we have any questions? Do I have any tips on being consistent with journaling? I would say you could do a journal challenge, but also building consistency with anything. The best thing you can do is to be kind to yourself. Realize, okay, why didn't I journal today? Was today a bit more hectic? Am I journaling at night or am I journaling in the morning, in the middle of the day? What's the most realistic time frame for me? Do I need to write 2 pages? Is just writing 2 sentences okay? There is no standard way to journal. It's just honestly, that's your freedom. That's your therapy for you. It's a time for you to be connected to yourself, maybe connected to a higher power. So I would say just to start off with, giving yourself the space to learn to be consistent with that. Again, I love Googling everything. So I would also look for a journal challenge. I did a 30-day spiritual journal challenge and I did it with friends and it was so great. We loved it. So also maybe connecting with people who also journal is something I would give as a tip. Do I have any meditation tips? I would say meditation is something I love to practice. And I know I struggled in the beginning with being able to stay focused. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be meditating on peace, but I'm thinking about my grocery list. I'm thinking about, what I have to do tomorrow. So I think it's important to acknowledge those thoughts and then get back to your mantra. So that's my advice for meditation. And for some people, you might meditate walking around, you might meditate. It might be actually just meditating on a poem or a scripture or something that you've read. There are different forms of meditation. So I say play around with it, have the freedom to discover and don't feel boxed in by what someone says meditation is supposed to be. Make it something for you. Do we have any other questions? Well, I want to say thank you so much for joining me here today. And thank you so much for having me. This is such a great event. And I'm really glad to say that I was a part of this morning. So thank you. Yes, meditation can be overwhelming.
Thank you, Sharmaya, for that presentation. It was beautiful. I feel like a lot of us are like so worried about what's going on around us that we totally forget about ourselves sometimes. And we really do have to take care of ourselves. You reminded me to start taking care of myself too. To be honest, I didn't do half of the things you're saying here. I feel like I should start doing a lot of those things now. But if anyone has any more comments or questions, someone said, because meditation sometimes seems so overwhelming. Oh, I've never meditated before. Have you meditated before, Sharmaya? I've never done that.
I love meditating, but honestly, it can be done in many forms. Like I'm Christian by faith. So sometimes meditating for me is meditating on a scripture, just remembering it and holding it in my heart, like taking each word, peace, heart, love, whatever the word is, and really connecting with it. So focusing on that and seeing how I can make that a part of my life, make that a part of my being. Or sometimes I sit in silence and I affirm myself, I am light, I am successful, I am love,
Yeah, that's really nice. Awesome. And then also, thank you, Alma, for conducting her presentation. That was good as
Yes,
well.
thank you.
So again, if you guys would like to leave any of your social media on the chat, or if you'd like to leave your emails or any information that maybe some of our guests can definitely maybe reach out to you if they have any more questions. But other than that, thank you so much. I really love that presentation. It was really informative. Definitely, we should start taking care of ourselves. And then also for later today, we do have a presentation with Chrysalis. They're going on employment resources is what their presentation is on from 1 to 1:30. And then also for this weekend, I do have a reminder that if you signed up for the 5K, you have until tomorrow, Friday, to submit your finisher times. And then from 9 to 12 this Saturday, we do have a event located in the YMCA in Van Nuys. So again, we would really appreciate if you guys would join us, and we will be handing out finisher goodie bags. So again, thank you so much, Sharmaya and Alma. That was a really nice presentation, and we hope to see you guys later on. And then hopefully we'll see you on Saturday.
Yes, thank you for having us, and we will see you on Saturday for sure. So if anyone here is popping up, you'll get to see us, the whole way down, not just like our torso up. So we're excited for that as well.
All right. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone. Submit your times, please. You don't want to miss out on our goodie bags.
Yeah, those totes look good. So I was like, oh, I gotta go real quick. And then I told Cecil, and he was like, let me resubmit too, just in case.
All right. Well, great job, everyone.
Great job, Sharmaya. Thank you so much again for
Boom.
having us.
Thank you so
That
much.
was great. Yeah, it was really nice.
Information. Yeah, no, I was there. I was like, damn, I'm taking notes. Like, you're right. I was like, damn, these questions too. Yeah, like, how do you meditate? Like, but no, thank you so much for coming out this morning. We truly do appreciate it, and I'm sure that our participants appreciated it as well, because y'all provided like a different aspect of like talking about COVID, because everyone talks about COVID and then just like COVID, wear masks, stay away, but they never really like go deep into just like the effects that it has on us. So I do appreciate that. Yeah, great job.
Thank you so much. I know we were a little shorter on time today, so thanks for bearing with us.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, no, y'all have the hour. You can take as much as you need it or not. Like, it's good. Yeah, thank you. I don't know if anyone has any last minute things to say. If not, that'll pretty much just conclude our session this morning.
I have a quick question.
Mhm.
Would it be possible to send like the people who signed in for today and then the one we did with 3 wins, just so I can get my numbers for the grants, please?
Yeah, so I at the end of this, most likely next week, I'll start like dividing everything by session. So I'll be sending that to everyone who like participated.
Thank you
Yeah,
so
no.
much.
Yeah, no, girl. Like, grant funding, I get it.
I was taking pictures. I'm like, let me get the names.
Yeah. No. I'll make sure to our sheet is dividing everything by dates too, and we're having them sign in like their session and stuff. So we'll definitely go back and then just like prepare sheets for everyone. Because
Awesome.
this whole like making sure that they know we're working is
Yeah.
true. Yeah, so we'll make sure to do that. And then the recordings will also be uploaded to like Facebook, most likely by next week also. Just after the whole mayhem with the event is over.
Yeah.
So
That's
Yeah,
good. Well,
good.
thank you so much. I won't take up too much more of your time because I know we're all very busy.
yeah,
But I'll see you guys on Saturday.
perfect. We'll see you on
I
Saturday.
will
And then
see
Liz will be
y'all on Saturday. Y'all, sorry.
You're fine. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.